and yet hast thou not attained to that perfect simplicity. Thou art yet subject to many troubles and perturbations, not yet free from all fear and suspicion of external accidents, nor yet either so meekly disposed towards all men as thou shouldest, or so affected as one whose only study and only wisdom is to be just in all his actions. 31. Behold and observe what is the state of their rational part, and those that the world doth account wise, see what things they fly and are afraid of, and what things they hunt after. 32. In another man's mind and understanding thy evil cannot subsist, nor in any proper temper or distemper of the natural constitution of thy body, which is but as it were the coat or cottage of thy soul. Wherein then but in that part of thee, wherein the conceit and apprehension of any misery can subsist? Let not that part therefore admit any such conceit, and then all is well. Though thy body which is so near it should either be cut or burnt, or suffer any corruption or putrefaction, yet let that part to which it belongs to judge of these be still at rest. That is, let her judge this, that whatsoever it is that equally may happen to a wicked man and to a good man is neither good nor evil. For that which happens equally to him that lives according to nature and to him that doth not is neither according to nature nor against it, and by consequent neither good nor bad. 33. Ever consider and think upon the world as being but one living substance, and having but one soul, and how all things in the world are terminated into one sensitive power, and are done by one general motion, as it were, and deliberation of that one soul, and how all things that are concur in the cause of one another's being, and by what manner of connection and concatenation all things happen. 34. What art thou that better and divine part accepted, but as Epictetus said well, a wretched soul appointed to carry a carcass up and down? 35. To suffer change can be no hurt, as no benefit it is by change to attain to being. The age and time of the world is as it were a flood and swift current, consisting of the things that are brought to pass in the world. For as soon as anything hath appeared and is passed away, another succeeds, and that also will presently out of sight. 36. Whatsoever doth happen in the world is in the course of nature, as usual and ordinary as a rose in the spring and fruit in summer. Of the same nature is sickness and death, slander and lying in wait, and whatsoever else ordinarily doth unto fools use to be occasion, either of joy or sorrow. That whatsoever it is that comes after, doth always very naturally, and as it were familiarly, follow upon that which was before. For thou must consider the things of the world, not as a loose independent number, consisting merely of necessary events, but as a discrete connection of things orderly and harmoniously disposed. There is then to be seen in the things of the world not a bare succession, but an admirable correspondence and affinity. 37. Let that of Heraclitus never be out of thy mind, that the death of earth is water, and the death of water is air, and the death of air is fire, and so on the contrary. Remember him also who was ignorant whither the way did lead, and how that reason being the thing by which all things in the world are administered, and which men are continually and most inwardly conversant with, yet is the thing which ordinarily they are most in opposition with, and how those things which daily happen among them cease not daily to be strange unto them, and that we should not either speak or do anything as men in their sleep, by opinion and bare imagination. For then we speak and do, and that we must not be as children who follow their father's example, for best reason alleging their bare, or, as by successive tradition from our forefathers we have received it. 38. Even as if any of the gods should tell thee, thou shalt certainly die tomorrow, or next day, thou wouldst not, except thou wert extremely base and pusillanimous, take it for a great benefit, rather to die the next day after than tomorrow. For alas, what is the difference? So, for the same reason, think it no great matter to die rather than many years after than the very next day. 39. Let it be thy perpetual meditation how many physicians who once looked so grim and so theatrically shrunk their brows upon their patients are dead and gone themselves. How many astrologers, after that in great ostentation they had foretold the death of some others, how many philosophers, after so many elaborate tracts and volumes concerning either mortality or immortality, how many brave captains and commanders, after the death and slaughter of so many, how many kings and tyrants, after they had with such horror and insolency abused their power upon men's lives, as though themselves had been immortal, how many, that I may so speak, whole cities, both men and towns, Elitse, Pompeii, Herculaneum, and others innumerable are dead and gone. Run them over also, whom thou thyself one after another hast known in thy time to drop away. Such and such a one took care of such and such a one's burial, and soon after was buried himself. So one, so another, and all things in a short time. For herein lieth all indeed, ever to look upon all worldly things as things for their continuance, that are but for a day, and for their worth most vile and contemptible, as for example, what is man? That which but the other day when he was conceived was vile snivel, and within few days shall be either an embalmed carcass or mere ashes. Thus must thou, according to truth and nature, thoroughly consider how man's life is but for a very moment of time, and so depart meek and contented, even as if a ripe olive falling should praise the ground that bare her, and give thanks to the tree that begat her. 40. Thou must be like a promontory of the sea, against which though the waves beat continually, yet it both itself stands, and about it are those swelling waves stilled and quieted. 41. O wretched I, to whom this mischance is happened, nay, happy I, to whom this thing being happened, I can continue without grief, neither wounded by that which is present, nor in fear of that which is to come. For as for this, it might have happened unto any man, but any man having such a thing befallen him could not have continued without grief. Why then should that rather be an unhappiness than this a happiness? But however canst thou, O man, term that unhappiness, which is no mischance to the nature of man, canst thou think that a mischance to the nature of man, which is not contrary to the end and will of his nature? What then hast thou learned is the will of man's nature? Doth that then which hath happened unto thee hinder thee from being just, or magnanimous, or temperate, or wise, or circumspect, or true, or modest, or free, or from anything else of all those things in the present enjoying and possession whereof the nature of man, as then enjoying all that is proper unto her, is fully satisfied? Now to conclude, upon all occasion of sorrow, remember henceforth to make use of this dogma, that whatsoever it is that hath happened unto thee is in very deed no such thing of itself as a misfortune, but that to bear it generously is certainly great happiness. 42. It is but an ordinary coarse one, yet it is a good effectual remedy against the fear of death, for a man to consider in his mind the examples of such who greedily and covetously, as it were, did for a long time enjoy their lives. What have they got more than they whose deaths have been untimely? Are not they themselves dead at the last? As Cadicians, Fabius, Julianus Lepidus, or any other who in their lifetime, having buried many, were at the last buried themselves. The whole space of any man's life is but little, and as little as it is with what troubles, with what manner of dispositions, and in the society of how wretched a body must it be passed. Let it be therefore unto thee altogether as a matter of indifferency. For if thou shalt look backward, behold, what an infinite chaos of time doth present itself unto thee, and as infinite a chaos, if thou shalt look forward. In that which is so infinite, what difference can there be between that which liveth but 3 days, and that which liveth 3 ages? 43. Let thy course ever be the most compendious way. The most compendious is that which is according to nature, that is, in all both words and deeds, ever to follow that which is most sound and perfect. For such a resolution will free a man from all trouble, strife, dissembling, and ostentation. The fifth book. 1. In the morning, when thou find thyself unwilling to rise, consider with thyself presently, it is to go about a man's work that I am stirred up. Am I then yet unwilling to go about that for which I myself was born and brought forth into this world? Or was I made for this, to lay me down, and make much of myself in a warm bed? Oh, but this is pleasing. And was it then for this that thou wert born, that thou mightest enjoy pleasure? Was it not in very truth for this, that thou mightest always be busy and in action? Seest thou not how all things in the world besides, how every tree and plant, how sparrows and ants, spiders and bees, how all in their kind are intent, as it were, orderly to perform whatsoever, towards the preservation of this orderly universe, naturally doth become and belong unto him? And wilt not thou do that which belongs unto a man to do? Wilt not thou run to do that which thy nature doth require? But thou must have some rest. Yes, thou must. Nature hath of that also, as well as of eating and drinking, allowed thee to a certain stint. But thou guessed beyond thy stint, and beyond that which would suffice, and in matter of action. There thou comest short of that which thou mayest. It must needs be, therefore, that thou dost not love thyself, for if thou didst, thou wouldst also love thy nature, and that which thy nature doth propose unto herself as her end. Others, as many as take pleasure in their trade and profession, can even pine themselves at their works, and neglect their bodies and their food for it. And doest thou less honour thy nature than an ordinary mechanic his trade, or a good dancer his art, than a covetous man his silver, and vainglorious man applause? These, to whatsoever they take an affection, can be content to want their meat and sleep, to further that every one which he affects, and shall actions tending to the common good of human society seem more vile unto thee, or worthy of less respect and intention? 2. How easy a thing is it for a man to put off from him all turbulent, adventitious imaginations, and presently to be in perfect rest and tranquillity. 3. Think thyself fit and worthy to speak, or to do anything that is according to nature, and let not the reproach or report of some that may ensue upon it ever deter thee. If it be right and honest to be spoken or done, undervalue not thyself so much as to be discouraged from it. As for them, they have their own rational overruling part, and their own proper inclination, which thou must not stand and look about to take notice of, but go on straight, whither both thine own particular and the common nature do lead thee, and the way of both these is but one. 4. I continue my course by actions according to nature, until I fall and cease, breathing out my last breath into that air by which continually breathed in I did live, and falling upon that earth, out of whose gifts and fruits my father gathered his seed, my mother her blood, and my nurse her milk, out of which for so many years I have been provided, both of meat and drink. And lastly, which beareth me that tread upon it, and beareth with me that so many ways do abuse it, or so freely make use of it, so many ways, to so many ends. 5. No man can admire thee for thy sharp acute language, such is thy natural disability that way. Be it so. Yet there be many other good things, for the want of which thou canst not plead the want or natural ability. Let them be seen in thee, which depend wholly from thee: sincerity, gravity, laboriousness, contempt of pleasures. Be not querulous, be content with little. Be kind, be free. Avoid all superfluity, all vain prattling. Be magnanimous. Doest not thou perceive how many things there be which, notwithstanding any pretence of natural indisposition and unfitness, thou mightest have performed and exhibited, and yet still thou doest voluntarily continue drooping downwards? Or wilt thou say that it is through defect of thy natural constitution that thou art constrained to murmur, to be base and wretched, to flatter, now to accuse, and now to please, and pacify thy body, to be vainglorious, to be so giddy-headed and unsettled in thy thoughts? Nay, witnesses be the gods. Of all these thou mightest have been rid long ago. Only this thou must have been contented with, to have borne the blame of one that is somehow slow and dull, wherein thou must so exercise thyself, as one who neither doth much take to heart this his natural defect, nor yet pleaseth himself in it. 6. Such there be who, when they have done a good turn to any, are ready to set them on the score for it, and to require retaliation. Others there be who, though they stand not upon retaliation to require any, yet they think with themselves nevertheless that such a one is their debtor, and they know as their word is what they have done. Others again there be who, when they have done any such thing, do not so much as know what they have done, but are like unto the vine which beareth her grapes, and when once she hath borne her own proper fruit, is contented, and seeks for no further recompense. As a horse after a race, and a hunting dog when he hath hunted, and a bee when she hath made her honey, look not for applause and commendation. So neither doth that man that rightly doth understand his own nature, when he hath done a good turn, but from one doth proceed to do another, even as the vine, after she hath once borne fruit in her own proper season, is ready for another time. Thou therefore must be one of them, who what they do barely do it without any further thought, and are in a manner insensible of what they do. Nay, but, will some reply perchance, this very thing a rational man is bound unto, to understand what it is that he doeth. For it is the property, say they, of one that is naturally sociable, to be sensible that he doth operate sociably, nay, and to desire that the party himself that is sociably dealt with should be sensible of it too. I answer, that which thou sayest is true indeed, but the true meaning of that which is said thou dost not understand, and therefore art thou one of those first whom I mentioned. For they also are led by a probable appearance of reason. But if thou dost desire to understand truly what it is that is said, fear not that thou shalt therefore give over any sociable action. 7. The form of the Athenians' prayer did run thus: O rain, rain, good Jupiter, upon all the grounds and fields that belong to the Athenians. Either we should not pray at all, or thus absolutely and freely, and not every one for himself in particular alone. 8. As we say commonly, the physician hath prescribed unto this man riding unto another cold baths unto a third to go barefoot, so it is alike to say, the nature of the universe hath prescribed unto this man sickness, or blindness, or some loss, or damage, or some such thing. For as there, when we say of a physician that he hath prescribed anything, our meaning is that he hath appointed this for that, as subordinate and conducing to health. So here whatsoever doth happen unto any is ordained unto him as a thing subordinate unto the fates, and therefore do we say of such things that they do, that is, happen or fall together, as of square stones, when either in walls or pyramids in a certain position, They fit one another, and agree as it were in a harmony. The masons say that they do, as if thou shouldest say, fall together, so that in the general, though the things be divers that make it, yet the consent or harmony itself is but one. And as the whole world is made up of all the particular bodies of the world, one perfect and complete body, of the same nature that particular bodies, so is the destiny of particular causes and events, one general one, of the same nature that particular causes are. What I now say, even they that are mere idiots are not ignorant of, for they say commonly, that is, this his destiny hath brought upon him. This therefore is by the fates properly and particularly brought upon this, as that unto this in particular is by the physician prescribed. These therefore let us accept of in like manner as we do those that are prescribed unto us our physicians. For them also in themselves shall we find to contain many harsh things, but we nevertheless, in hope of health and recovery, accept of them. Let the fulfilling and accomplishment of those things which the common nature hath determined be unto thee as thy health. Accept then, and be pleased with whatsoever doth happen, though otherwise harsh and unpleasing, as tending to that end, to the health and welfare of the universe, and to Jove's happiness and prosperity. For this whatsoever it be should not have been produced had it not conduced to the good of the universe. For neither doth any ordinary particular nature bring anything to pass that is not to whatsoever is within the sphere of its own proper administration and government agreeable and subordinate. For these two considerations, then thou must be well pleased with anything that doth happen unto thee. First, because that for thee properly it was brought to pass, and unto thee it was prescribed, and that from the very beginning by the series and connection of the first causes it hath ever had a reference unto thee. And secondly, because the good success and perfect welfare, and indeed the very continuance of him, that is the administrator of the whole, doth in a manner depend on it. For the whole, because whole therefore entire and perfect, is maimed and mutilated, if thou shalt cut off anything at all, whereby the coherence and contiguity as of parts, so of causes is maintained and preserved. Of which certain it is, that thou doest as much as lieth in thee, cut off, and in some sort violently take somewhat away, as often as thou art displeased with anything that happeneth. 9. Be not discontented, be not disheartened, be not out of hope. If often it succeed not so well with thee punctually and precisely to do all things according to the right dogmata, but being once cast off, return unto them again. And as for those many and more frequent occurrences, either of worldly distractions or human infirmities, which as a man thou canst not but in some measure be subject unto, be not thou discontented with them, but however love and affect that only which thou dost return unto, a philosopher's life and proper occupation after the most exact manner. And when thou dost return to thy philosophy, return not unto it as the manner of some is, after play and liberty as it were, to their schoolmasters and pedagogues, but as they that have sore eyes to their sponge and egg, or as another to his cataplasm, or as others to their fomentations. So shalt not thou make it a matter of ostentation at all to obey reason, but of ease and comfort. And remember that philosophy requireth nothing of thee but what thy nature requireth. And wouldest thou thyself desire anything that is not according to nature? For which of these sayest thou, that which is according to nature or against it, is of itself more kind and pleasing? Is it not for that respect especially, that pleasure itself is to so many men's hurt and overthrow, most prevalent because esteemed commonly most kind and natural? But consider well whether magnanimity rather and true liberty, and true simplicity and equanimity, and holiness, whether these be not most kind and natural? And prudency itself, what more kind and amiable than it, when thou shalt truly consider with thyself, what it is through all the proper objects of thy rational intellectual faculty currently to go on without any fall or stumble. As for the things of the world, their true nature is in a manner so involved with obscurity that unto many philosophers, and those no mean ones, they seemed altogether incomprehensible, and the Stoics themselves, though they judged them not altogether incomprehensible, yet scarce, and not without much difficulty, comprehensible, so that all assent of ours is fallible. For who is he that is infallible in his conclusions? From the nature of things, pass now unto their subjects and matter. How temporary, how vile are they, ay, such as may be in the power and possession of some abominable loose liver, of some common strumpet, of some notorious oppressor and extortioner. Pass from thence to the dispositions of them that thou doest ordinarily converse with. How hardly do we bear even with the most loving and amiable, that I may not say how hard it is for us to bear even with our own selves, in such obscurity and impurity of things, in such and so continual a flux, both of the substances and time, both of the motions themselves and things moved, what it is that we can fasten upon, either to honour and respect especially, or seriously and studiously to seek after, I cannot so much as conceive, for indeed they are things contrary. 10. Thou must comfort thyself in the expectation of thy natural dissolution, and in the meantime not grieve at the delay, but rest contented in those two things. First, that nothing shall happen unto thee which is not according to the nature of the universe. Secondly, that it is in thy power to do nothing against thine own proper God and inward spirit. For it is not in any man's power to constrain thee to transgress against him. 11. What is the use that now at this present I make of my soul? Thus from time to time, and upon all occasions, thou must put this question to thyself: what is now that part of mine which they call the rational mistress part employed about? Whose soul do I now properly possess? A child's or a youth's, a woman's or a tyrant's, some brute or some wild beast's soul? 12. What those things are in themselves, which by the greatest part are esteemed good, thou mayest gather even from this. For if a man shall hear things mentioned as good, which are really good indeed, such as are prudence, temperance, justice, fortitude, after so much heard and conceived, he cannot endure to hear of any more, for the word good is properly spoken of them. But as for those which by the vulgar are esteemed good, if he shall hear them mentioned as good, he doth hearken for more. He is well contented to hear that what is spoken by the comedian is but familiarly and popularly spoken, so that even the vulgar apprehend the difference. For why is it else that this offends not and needs not to be excused, when virtues are styled good, but that which is spoken in commendation of wealth, pleasure, or honour, we entertain it only as merrily and pleasantly spoken? Proceed, therefore, and inquire further, whether it may not be that those things also which being mentioned upon the stage were merrily, and with great applause of the multitude, scoffed at with this jest, that they that possessed them had not in all the world of their own, such was their affluence and plenty, so much as a place where to avoid their excrements. Whether I say those ought not also in very deed to be much respected and esteemed of, as the only things that are truly good. 13. All that I consist of is either form or matter. No corruption can reduce either of these unto nothing, for neither did I of nothing become a subsistent creature. Every part of mine then will by mutation be disposed into a certain part of the whole world, and that in time into another part, and so in infinitum, by which kind of mutation I also became what I am, and so did they that begot me, and they before them, and so upwards in infinitum. For so we may be allowed to speak, through the age and government of the world, be to some certain periods of time limited and confined. 14. Reason and rational power are faculties which content themselves with themselves and their own proper operations. And as for their first inclination and motion, that they take from themselves. But their progress is right to the end and object which is in their way, as it were, and lieth just before them, that is, which is feasible and possible, whether it be that which at the first they propose to themselves or no. For which reason also such actions are termed to intimate the directness of the way by which they are achieved. Nothing must be thought to belong to a man which doth not belong unto him as he is a man. These, the event of purposes, are not things required in a man. The nature of man doth not profess any such things. The final ends and consummations of actions are nothing at all to a man's nature. The end, therefore, of a man, or the summum bonum whereby that end is fulfilled, cannot consist in the consummation of actions purposed and intended. Again, concerning these outward worldly things, were it so that any of them did properly belong unto man, then would it not belong unto man to condemn them and to stand in opposition with them. Neither would he be praiseworthy that can live without them, or he good, if these were good indeed, who of his own accord doth deprive himself of any of them. But we see contrariwise that the more a man doth withdraw himself from these, wherein external pomp and greatness doth consist, or any other like these, or the better he doth bear with the loss of these, the better he is accounted. 15. Such as thy thoughts and ordinary cogitations are, such will thy mind be in time. For the soul doth as it were receive its tincture from the fancies and imaginations. Dye it therefore, and thoroughly soak it with the assiduity of these cogitations. As for example, wheresoever thou mayest live, there it is in thy power to live well and happy. But thou mayest live at the court. There then also mayest thou live well and happy. Again, that which everything is made for, he is also made unto that, and cannot but naturally incline unto it. That which anything doth naturally incline unto, therein is his end. Wherein the end of everything doth consist, therein also doth his good and benefit consist. Society therefore is the proper good of a rational creature. For that we are made for society, it hath long since been demonstrated. Or can any man make any question of this, that whatsoever is naturally worse and inferior is ordinarily subordinated to that which is better, and that those things that are best are made for one another, and those things that have souls are better than those that have none, and of those that have, those best that have rational souls. 16. To desire things impossible is the part of a madman, but it is a thing impossible that wicked man should not commit some such things. Neither doth anything happen to any man, which in the ordinary course of nature as natural unto him doth not happen. Again, the same things happen unto others also, and truly if either he that is ignorant that such a thing hath happened unto him, or he that is ambitious to be commended for his magnanimity can be patient and is not grieved, is it not a grievous thing that either ignorance or a vain desire to please and to be commended should be more powerful and effectual than true prudence? As for the things themselves, they touch not the soul, neither can they have any access unto it, neither can they of themselves any ways either affect it or move it. For she herself alone can affect and move herself, and according as the dogmata and opinions are, which she doth vouchsafe herself, so are those things which, as accessories, have any coexistence with her. 17. After one consideration, man is nearest unto us, as we are bound to do them good and to bear with them. But as he may oppose any of our true proper actions, so man is unto me but as a thing different, even as the sun or the wind or some wild beast. By some of these it may be that some operation or other of mine may be hindered. However, of my mind and resolution itself, there can be no let or impediment, by reason of that ordinary constant, both exception or reservation wherewith it inclineth, and ready conversation of objects, from that which may not be, to that which may be, which in the prosecution of its inclinations, as occasion serves, it doth observe. For by these the mind doth turn and convert any impediment whatsoever, to be her aim and purpose, so that what before was the impediment is now the principal object of her working, and that which before was in her way is now her readiest way. 18. Honour that which is chiefest and most powerful in the world, and that is it which makes use of all things and governs all things. So also in thyself, honour that which is chiefest and most powerful, and is of one kind and nature with that which we now spake of. For it is the very same which being in thee turneth all other things to its own use, and by whom also thy life is governed. 19. That which doth not hurt the city itself cannot hurt any citizen. This rule thou must remember to apply and make use of upon every conceit and apprehension of wrong. If the whole city be not hurt by this, neither am I, certainly. And if the whole be not, why should I make it my private grievance? Consider rather what it is wherein he is overseen that is thought to have done the wrong. Again, often meditate how swiftly all things that subsist and all things that are done in the world are carried away, and as it were conveyed out of sight. For both the substance themselves we see as a flood are in a continual flux, and all actions in a perpetual change, and the causes themselves subject to 1,000 alterations. Neither is there anything almost that may ever be said to be now settled and constant. Next unto this, and which follows upon it, consider both the infiniteness of the time already past, and the immense vastness of that which is to come, wherein all things are to be resolved and annihilated. Art not thou then a very fool, who for these things art either puffed up with pride, or distracted with cares, or canst find in thy heart to make such moans as for a thing that would trouble thee for a very long time? Consider the whole universe, whereof thou art but a very little part, and the whole age of the world together, whereof but a short and very momentary portion is allotted unto thee, and all the fates and destinies together, of which how much is it that comes to thy part and share? Again, another doth trespass against me. Let him look to that. He is master of his own disposition and of his own operation. I, for my part, am in the meantime in possession of as much as the common nature would have me to possess, and that which mine own nature would have me do, I do. 20. Let not that chief commanding part of thy soul be ever subject to any variation through any corporal either pain or pleasure, neither suffer it to be mixed with these, but let it both circumscribe itself and confine those affections to their own proper parts and members. But if at any time they do reflect and rebound upon the mind and understanding, as in a united and compacted body it must needs, then must thou not go about to resist sense and feeling, it being natural. However, let not thy understanding to this natural sense and feeling, which whether unto our flesh pleasant or painful, is unto us nothing properly, add an opinion of either good or bad, and all is well. 21. To live with the gods, who at all times affords unto them the spectacle of a soul, both contented and well pleased with whatsoever is afforded or allotted unto her, and performing whatsoever is pleasing to that spirit, whom, being part of himself, Jove hath appointed to every man as his overseer and governor. 22. Be not angry neither with him whose breath, neither with him whose armholes are offensive. What can he do? Such is his breath naturally, and such are his armholes, and from such an effect and such a smell must of necessity proceed. Oh, but the man, sayest thou, hath understanding in him, and might of himself know that he by standing near cannot choose but offend. and thou also, God bless thee, hast understanding. Let thy reasonable faculty work upon his reasonable faculty. Show him his fault, admonish him. If he hearken unto thee, thou hast cured him, and there will be no more occasion of anger. 23. Where there shall neither roarer be nor harlot. Why so? As thou dost purpose to live, when thou hast retired thyself to some such place where neither roarer nor harlot is, so mayest thou here. And if they will not suffer thee, then mayest thou leave thy life rather than thy calling, but so as one that doth not think himself anyways wronged. Only as one would say, Here is a smoke, I will out of it. And what a great matter is this! Now till some such thing force me out, I will continue free, neither shall any man hinder me to do what I will, and my will shall ever be by the proper nature of a reasonable and sociable creature, regulated and directed. 24. That rational essence by which the universe is governed is for community and society, and therefore hath it both made the things that are worse for the best, and hath allied and knit together those which are best, as it were, in a harmony. Seest thou not how it hath subordinated and coordinated, and how it hath distributed unto everything according to its worth? And those which have the preeminency and superiority above all hath it united together into a mutual consent and agreement. 25. How hast thou carried thyself hitherto towards the gods, towards thy parents, towards thy brethren, towards thy wife, towards thy children, towards thy masters, thy foster fathers, thy friends, thy domestics, thy servants? Is it so with thee that hitherto thou hast neither by word or deed wronged any of them? Remember withal through how many things thou hast already passed, and how many thou hast been able to endure, so that now the legend of thy life is full, and thy charge is accomplished. Again, how many truly good things have certainly by thee been discerned? How many pleasures, how many pains hast thou passed over with contempt? How many things eternally glorious hast thou despised? Towards how many perverse, unreasonable men hast thou carried thyself kindly and discreetly? 26. Why should imprudent, unlearned souls trouble that which is both learned and prudent? And which is that is so? She that understandeth the beginning and the end, and hath the true knowledge of that rational essence that passeth through all things subsisting, and through all ages being ever the same, disposing and dispensing as it were this universe by certain periods of time. 27. Within a very little while thou will be either ashes or a skeleton, and a name perchance, and perchance not so much as a name. And what is that but an empty sound, and a rebounding echo? Those things which in this life are dearest unto us, and of most account, they are in themselves but vain, putrid, contemptible. The most weighty and serious, if rightly esteemed, but as puppies, biting one another, or untoward children, now laughing and then crying. As for faith, and modesty, and justice, and truth, they long since, as one of the poets hath it, have abandoned this spacious earth, and retired themselves unto heaven. What is it then that doth keep thee here, if things sensible be so mutable and unsettled, and the senses so obscure and so fallible, and our souls nothing but an exhalation of blood, and to be in credit among such be but vanity? What is it that thou dost stay for, an extinction or a translation, either of them with a propitious and contented mind? But still that time come, what will content thee? What else but to worship and praise the gods, and to do good unto men, to bear with them, and to forbear to do them any wrong, and for all external things belonging either to this thy wretched body or life, to remember that they are neither thine nor in thy power. 28. Thou mayest always speed, if thou wilt but make choice of the right way, if in the course both of thine opinions and actions thou will observe a true method, these two things be common to the souls, as of God, so of men, and of every reasonable creature, first, that in their own proper work they cannot be hindered by anything, and secondly, that their happiness doth consist in a disposition to, and in the practice of, righteousness, and that in these their desire is terminated. 29. If this neither be my wicked act, nor an act anyways depending from any wickedness of mine, and that by it the public is not hurt, what doth it concern me? And wherein can the public be hurt? For thou must not altogether be carried by conceit and common opinion. As for help, thou must afford that unto them after thy best ability, and as occasion shall require, though they sustain damage, but in these middle or worldly things, but however do not thou conceive that they are truly hurt thereby, for that is not right. But as that old foster father in the comedy, being now to take his leave, doth with a great deal of ceremony require his foster child's rhombus or rattletop, remembering nevertheless that it is but a rhombus, so here also do thou likewise. For indeed, what is all this pleading and public bawling for at the courts? O man, hast thou forgotten what those things are? Yea, but they are things that others much care for, and highly esteem of. Wilt thou therefore be a fool too? Once I was, let that suffice. 30. Let death surprise me when it will, and where it will. I may be well endowed by fortune, or a happy man nevertheless. For he is a happy man who in his lifetime dealeth unto himself a happy lot and portion. A happy lot and portion is good inclinations of the soul, good desires, good actions. The Sixth Book. 1. The matter itself, of which the universe doth consist, is of itself very tractable and pliable. That rational essence that doth govern it hath in itself no cause to do evil. It hath no evil in itself, neither can it do anything that is evil, neither can anything be hurt by it, and all things are done and determined according to its will and prescript. 2. Be it all one unto thee, whether half frozen or well warm, whether only slumbering or after a full sleep, whether discommended or commended, thou do thy duty, or whether dying or doing somewhat else, for that also to die must among the rest be reckoned as one of the duties and actions of our lives. 3. Look in, let not either the proper quality or the true worth of anything pass thee before thou hast fully apprehended it. 4. All substances come soon to their change, and either they shall be resolved by way of exhalation, if so be that all things shall be reunited into one substance, or as others maintain, they shall be scattered and dispersed. As for that rational essence by which all things are governed, as it best understandeth itself, both its own disposition and what it doth, and what matter it hath to do with, and accordingly doth all things, so we that do not, no wonder, if we wonder at many things, the reasons whereof we cannot comprehend. 5. The best kind of revenge is not to become like unto them. 6. Let this be thy only joy, and thy only comfort, from one sociable kind action without intermission to pass unto another, God being ever in thy mind. 7. The rational commanding part, as it alone can stir up and turn itself, so it maketh both itself to be, and everything that happeneth to appear unto itself as it will itself. 8. According to the nature of the universe, all things particular are determined, not according to any other nature, either about compassing and containing, or within dispersed and contained, or without depending. Either this universe is a mere confused mass and an intricate context of things which shall in time be scattered and dispersed again, or it is a union consisting of order and administered by providence. If the first, why should I desire to continue any longer in this fortunate confusion and commixtion? Or why should I take care for anything else, but that as soon as may be, I may be earth again? And why should I trouble myself any more whilst I seek to please the gods? Whatsoever I do, dispersion is my end, and will come upon me whether I will or no. But if the latter be, then am not I religious in vain, then will I be quiet and patient, and put my trust in him, who is the governor of all. 9. Whensoever by some present hard occurrences thou art constrained to be in some sort troubled and vexed, return unto thyself as soon as may be, and be not out of tune longer than thou must needs. For so shalt thou be the better able to keep thy part another time, and to maintain the harmony, if thou dost use thyself to this continually, once out, presently to have recourse unto it, and to begin again. 10. If it were that thou hadst at one time both a stepmother and a natural mother living, thou wouldst honour and respect her also. Nevertheless, to thine own natural mother would thy refuge and recourse be continually. So let the court and thy philosophy be unto thee. Have recourse unto it often, and comfort thyself in her, by whom it is that those other things are made tolerable unto thee, and thou also in those things not intolerable unto others. 11. How marvellous useful it is for a man to represent unto himself meats, and all such things that are for the mouth, under a right apprehension and imagination. As for example, this is the carcass of a fish, this of a bird, and this of a hog. And again more generally, this falernum, this excellent highly commended wine, is but the bare juice of an ordinary grape. This purple robe, but sheep's hairs dyed with the blood of a shellfish. So for coitus, it is but the attrition of an ordinary base entrail, and the excretion of a little vile snivel, with a certain kind of convulsion, according to Hippocrates his opinion. How excellent useful are these lively fancies and representations of things, thus penetrating and passing through the objects, to make their true nature known and apparent. This must thou use all thy life long, and upon all occasions, and then especially when matters are apprehended as of great worth and respect. Thy art and care must be to uncover them, and to behold their vileness, and to take away from them all those serious circumstances and expressions under which they made so grave a show. For outward pomp and appearance is a great juggler, and then especially art thou most in danger to be beguiled by it, when, to a man's thinking, thou most seemest to be employed about matters of moment. 12. See what Crates pronounceth concerning Xenocrates himself. 13. Those things which the common sort of people do admire are most of them such things as are very general, and may be comprehended under things merely natural, or naturally affected and qualified, as stones, wood, figs, vines, olives. Those that be admired by them, that are more moderate and restrained, are comprehended under things animated, as flocks and herds. Those that are yet more gentle and curious, their admiration is commonly confined to reasonable creatures only, not in general as they are reasonable, but as they are capable of art, or of some craft and subtle invention, or perchance barely to reasonable creatures, as they that delight in the possession of many slaves. But he that honours a reasonable soul in general, as it is reasonable and naturally sociable, doth little regard anything else, and above all things is careful to preserve his own in the continual habit and exercise both of reason and sociableness, and thereby doth cooperate with him, of whose nature he doth also participate, God. 14. Some things hasten to be, and others to be no more. And even whatsoever now is, some part thereof hath already perished. Perpetual fluxes and alterations renew the world, as the perpetual course of time doth make the age of the world, of itself infinite, to appear always fresh and new. In such a flux and course of all things, what of these things that hasten so fast away should any man regard, since among all there is not any that a man may fasten and fix upon, as if a man would settle his affection upon some ordinary sparrow living by him, who is no sooner seen than out of sight. For we must not think otherwise of our lives than as a mere exhalation of blood, or of an ordinary respiration of air. For what in our common apprehension is to breathe in the air and to breathe it out again, which we do daily, so much is it and no more, at once to breathe out all thy respirative faculty into that common air from whence but lately, as being but from yesterday and today, thou didst first breathe it in, and with it life. 15. Not vegetative spiration, it is not surely, which plants have, that in this life should be so dear unto us, nor sensitive respiration, the proper life of beasts, both tame and wild, nor this our imaginative faculty, nor that we are subject to be led and carried up and down by the strength of our sensual appetites, or that we can gather and live together, or that we can feed, for that in effect is no better than that we can void the excrements of our food. What is it then that should be dear unto us? To hear a clattering noise? If not that, then neither to be applauded by the tongues of men. For the praises of many tongues is in effect no better than the clattering of so many tongues. If then neither applause, what is there remaining that should be dear unto thee? This, I think, that in all thy motions and actions thou be moved, and restrained according to thine own true natural constitution and construction only. And to this even ordinary arts and professions do lead us. For it is that which every art doth aim at, that whatsoever it is, that is by art effected and prepared, may be fit for that work that it is prepared for. This is the end, that he that dresseth the vine, and he that takes upon him either to tame colts, or to train up dogs, doth aim at. What else doth the education of children and all learned professions tend unto? Certainly then it is that which should be dear unto us also, if in this particular it go well with thee, care not for the obtaining of other things. But is it so that thou canst not but respect other things also? Then canst not thou truly be free? Then canst thou not have self-content? Then wilt thou ever be subject to passions? For it is not possible, but that thou must be envious and jealous and suspicious of them whom thou knowest, can bereave thee of such things, and again a secret underminer of them, whom thou seest in present possession of that which is dear unto thee. To be short, he must of necessity be full of confusion within himself, and often accuse the gods, whosoever stands in need of these things. But if thou shalt honour and respect thy mind only, that will make thee acceptable towards thyself, towards thy friends very tractable, and comfortable and concordant with the gods, that is, accepting with praises whatsoever they shall think good to appoint and allot unto thee. 16. Under, above, and about are the motions of the elements, but the motion of virtue is none of those motions, but is somewhat more excellent and divine, whose way to speed and prosper in it must be through a way that is not easily comprehended. 17. Who can choose but wonder at them? They will not speak well of them that are at the same time with them and live with them, yet they themselves are very ambitious, that they that shall follow, whom they have never seen nor shall ever see, should speak well of them, as if a man should grieve that he hath not been commended by them that lived before him. 18. Do not ever conceive anything impossible to man, which by thee cannot, or not without much difficulty, be effected, But whatsoever in general thou canst conceive possible and proper unto any man, think that very possible unto thee also. 19. Suppose that at the palestra somebody hath all to torn thee with his nails, and hath broken thy head. Well, thou art wounded, yet thou dost not exclaim, thou art not offended with him. Thou dost not suspect him for it afterwards, as one that watcheth to do thee a mischief. Yea, even then, though thou dost thy best to save thyself from him, yet not from him as an enemy, it is not by way of any suspicious indignation, but by way of gentle and friendly declination. Keep the same mind and disposition in other parts of thy life also. For many things there be which we must conceit and apprehend, as though we had had to do with an antagonist at the palestra. For as I said, it is very possible for us to avoid and decline, though we neither suspect nor hate. 20. If anybody shall reprove me, and shall make it apparent unto me, that in any either opinion or action of mine I do err, I will most gladly retract. For it is the truth that I seek, after by which I am sure that never any man was hurt, and as sure that he is hurt that continueth in any error or ignorance whatsoever. 21. I for my part will do what belongs unto me, as for other things, whether things unsensible or things irrational, or if rational, yet deceived and ignorant of the true way, they shall not trouble or distract me. For as for those creatures which are not endued with reason and all other things, and matters of the world whatsoever I freely and generously, as one endued with reason, of things that have none, make use of them. And as for men, towards them as naturally partakers of the same reason, my care is to carry myself sociably. But whatsoever it is that thou art about, remember to call upon the gods. And as for the time how long thou shalt live to do these things, let it be altogether indifferent unto thee, for even 3 such hours are sufficient. 22. Alexander of Macedon and he that dressed his mules, when once dead, both came to one. For either they were both resumed into those original rational essences from whence all things in the world are propagated, or both after one fashion were scattered into atoms. 23. Consider how many different things, whether they concern our bodies or our souls, in a moment of time come to pass in every one of us, and so thou wilt not wonder if many more things, or rather all things that are done, can at one time subsist and coexist in that both one and general which we call the world. 24. If any should put this question unto thee, how this word Antoninus is written, wouldst thou not presently fix thine intention upon it, and utter out in order every letter of it? And if any shall begin to gainsay thee, and quarrel with thee about it, wilt thou quarrel with him again, or rather go on meekly as thou hast begun, until thou hast numbered out every letter? Here then likewise remember, that every duty that belongs unto a man doth consist of some certain letters or numbers, as it were, to which, without any noise or tumult, keeping thyself thou must orderly proceed to thy proposed end, forbearing to quarrel with him that would quarrel and fall out with thee. 25. Is it not a cruel thing to forbid men to affect those things which they conceive to agree best with their own natures, and to tend most to their own proper good and behoof? But thou after a sort deniest them this liberty, as often as thou art angry with them for their sins. For surely they are led unto those sins whatsoever they be, as to their proper good and commodity. But it is not so, thou wilt object perchance. Thou therefore teach them better, and make it appear unto them, but be not thou angry with them. 26. Death is a cessation from the impression of the senses, the tyranny of the passions, the errors of the mind, and the servitude of the body. 27. If in this kind of life thy body be able to hold out, It is a shame that thy soul should faint first and give over. Take heed, lest of a philosopher thou become a mere Caesar in time, and receive a new tincture from the court. For it may happen if thou dost not take heed. Keep thyself, therefore, truly simple, good, sincere, grave, free from all ostentation, a lover of that which is just, religious, kind, tender-hearted, strong and vigorous to undergo anything that becomes thee. Endeavour to continue such, as philosophy, hadst thou wholly and constantly applied thyself unto it, would have made and secured thee. Worship the gods, procure the welfare of men. This life is short. Charitable actions and a holy disposition is the only fruit of this earthly life. 28. Do all things as becometh the disciple of Antoninus Pius. Remember his resolute constancy in things that were done by him according to reason, his equability in all things, his sanctity, the cheerfulness of his countenance, his sweetness, and how free he was from all vainglory, how careful to come to the true and exact knowledge of matters in hand, and how he would by no means give over till he did fully and plainly understand the whole state of the business, and how patiently and without any contestation he would bear with them that did unjustly condemn him, how he would never be over hasty in anything, nor give ear to slanders and false accusations, but examine and observe with best diligence the several actions and dispositions of men. Again, how he was no backbiter, nor easily frightened nor suspicious, and in his language free from all affectation and curiosity, and how easily he would content himself with few things, as lodging, bedding, clothing, and ordinary nourishment and attendance, how able to endure labour, how patient, able through his spare diet, from morning to evening, without any necessity of withdrawing before his accustomed hours to the necessities of nature, his uniformity and constancy in matter of friendship, how he would bear with them that with all boldness and liberty opposed his opinions, and even rejoice if any man could better advise him, and lastly, how religious he was without superstition. All these things of him remember, that whensoever thy last hour shall come upon thee, it may find thee, as it did him, ready for it in the possession of a good conscience. 29. Stir up thy mind, and recall thy wits again from thy natural dreams and visions, and when thou art perfectly awoken, and canst perceive that they were but dreams that troubled thee, as one newly awakened out of another kind of sleep, look upon these worldly things with the same mind as thou didst upon those that thou sawest in thy sleep. 30. I consist of body and soul. Unto my body all things are indifferent, for of itself it cannot affect one thing more than another with apprehension of any difference. As for my mind, all things which are not within the verge of her own operation are indifferent unto her, and for her own operations, those altogether depend of her, neither does she busy herself about any, but those that are present, for as for future and past operations, those also are now at this present indifferent unto her. 31. As long as the foot doth that which belongeth unto it to do, and the hand that which belongs unto it their labour, whatsoever it be, is not unnatural. So a man, as long as he doth that which is proper unto a man, his labour cannot be against nature. And if it be not against nature, then neither is it hurtful unto him. But if it were so that happiness did consist in pleasure, how came notorious robbers, impure abominable livers, parricides and tyrants, in so large a measure to have their part of pleasures? 32. Dost thou not see how even those that profess mechanic arts, though in some respect they be no better than mere idiots, yet they stick close to the course of their trade, neither can they find in their heart to decline from it, and is it not a grievous thing that an architect or a physician shall respect the course and mysteries of their profession, more than a man the proper course and condition of his own nature, reason, which is common to him and to the gods? 33. Asia, Europe, what are they but as corners of the whole world, of which the whole sea is but as one drop, and the great Mount Athos but as a clod, as all present time is but as one point of eternity. All petty things, all things that are soon altered, soon perished, and all things come from one beginning, either all severally and particularly deliberated and resolved upon by the general ruler and governor of all, or all by necessary consequence. So that the dreadful hiatus of a gaping lion, and all poison and all hurtful things, are but, as the thorn and the mire, the necessary consequences of goodly fair things. Think not of these, therefore, as things contrary to those which thou dost much honour and respect, but consider in thy mind the true fountain of all. 34. He that seeth the things that are now hath seen all that either was ever or ever shall be, for all things are of one kind, and all like one unto another. Meditate often upon the connection of all things in the world, and upon the mutual relation that they have one unto another. For all things are, after a sort, folded and involved one with another, and by these means all agree well together. For one thing is consequent unto another, by local motion, by natural conspiration and agreement, and by substantial union, or reduction of all substances into one. 35. Fit and accommodate thyself to that estate and to those occurrences, which by the destinies have been annexed unto thee, and love those men whom thy fate it is to live with, but love them truly. An instrument, a tool, a utensil, whatsoever it be, if it be fit for the purpose it was made for, it is as it should be, though he perchance that made and fitted it be out of sight and gone. But in things natural, that power which hath framed and fitted them is and abideth within them still, for which reason she ought also the more to be respected, and we are the more obliged, if we may live and pass our time according to her purpose and intention, to think that all is well with us, and according to our own minds. After this manner also, and in this respect it is, that he that is all in all doth enjoy his happiness. 36. What things soever are not within the proper power and jurisdiction of thine own will, either to compass or avoid, if thou shalt propose unto thyself any of those things as either good or evil, it must needs be that according as thou shalt either fall into that which thou dost think evil, or miss of that which thou dost think good, so wilt thou be ready both to complain of the gods, and to hate those men, who either shall be so indeed, or shall by thee be suspected as the cause either of thy missing of the one, or falling into the other. And indeed we must needs commit many evils, if we incline to any of these things, more or less with an opinion of any difference. But if we mind and fancy those things only as good and bad, which wholly depend of our own wills, there is no more occasion why we should either murmur against the gods, or be at enmity with any man. 37. We all work to one effect, some willingly, and with a rational apprehension of what we do, others without any such knowledge. As I think Heraclitus in a place speaketh of them that sleep, that even they do work in their kind, and do confer to the general operations of the world. One man therefore doth cooperate after one sort, and another after another sort. But even he that doth murmur, and to his power doth resist and hinder, even he as much as any doth cooperate. For of such also did the world stand in need. Now do thou consider among which of these thou wilt rank thyself. For as for him who is the administrator of all, he will make good use of thee whether thou wilt or no, and make thee as a part and member of the whole, so as to cooperate with him, that whatsoever thou doest shall turn to the furtherance of his own counsels and resolutions. But be not thou for shame such a part of the whole, as that vile and ridiculous verse, which Chrysippus in a place doth mention, is a part of the comedy. 38. Doth either the sun take upon him to do that which belongs to the rain, or his son Aesculapius that which unto the earth doth properly belong? How is it with every one of the stars in particular? Though they all differ one from another, and have their several charges and functions by themselves, do they not all nevertheless concur and cooperate to one end? 39. If so be that the gods have deliberated in particular of those things that should happen unto me, I must stand to their deliberation, as discreet and wise. For that a god should be an imprudent god is a thing hard even to conceive. And why should they resolve to do me hurt? For what profit either unto them or the universe, which they specially take care of, could arise from it? But if so be that they have not deliberated of me in particular, certainly they have of the whole in general, and those things which in consequence and coherence of this general deliberation happen unto me in particular, I am bound to embrace and accept of. But if so be that they have not deliberated at all, which indeed is very irreligious for any man to believe, for then let us neither sacrifice nor pray, nor respect our oaths, neither let us any more use any of those things which we persuaded of the presence and secret conversation of the gods among us, daily use and practice. But I say, if so be that they have not indeed either in general or particular deliberated of any of those things that happen unto us in this world, yet God be thanked, that of those things that concern myself, it is lawful for me to deliberate myself, and all my deliberation is but concerning that which may be to me most profitable. Now that unto every one is most profitable, which is according to his own constitution and nature, and my nature is to be rational, and in all my actions, and as a good and natural member of a city and commonwealth, towards my fellow members, ever to be sociably and kindly disposed and affected. My city and country, as I am Antoninus, is Rome, as a man the whole world. Those things, therefore, that are expedient and profitable to those cities are the only things that are good and expedient to me. 40. Whatsoever in any kind doth happen to any one is expedient to the whole, and thus much to content us might suffice, that it is expedient for the whole in general. But yet this also shalt thou generally perceive, if thou dost diligently take heed, that whatsoever doth happen to any one man or men, and now I am content that the word expedient should more generally be understood of those things which we otherwise call middle things, or things indifferent, as health, wealth, and the like. 41. As the ordinary shows of the theatre and of other such places, when thou art presented with them, affect thee, as the same things still seen, and in the same fashion, make the sight ingrateful and tedious, so must all the things that we see all our life long affect us, for all things above and below are still the same, and from the same causes. When then will there be an end? 42. Let the several deaths of men of all sorts, and of all sorts of professions, and of all sort of nations, be a perpetual object of thy thoughts, so that thou mayest even come down to Philistio, Phoebus, and Origanion. Pass now to other generations. Thither shall we after many changes, where so many brave orators are, where so many grave philosophers, Heraclitus, Pythagoras, Socrates, where so many heroes of the old times, and then so many brave captains of the latter times, and so many kings. After all these, where Eudoxus, Hipparchus, Archimedes, where so many other sharp, generous, industrious, subtle, peremptory dispositions, and among others even they that have been the greatest scoffers and deriders of the frailty and brevity of this our human life, as Menippus and others, as many as there have been such as he. Of all these consider, that they long since are all dead and gone. And what do they suffer by it? Nay, they that have not so much as a name remaining, what are they the worse for it? One thing there is, and that only, which is worth our while in this world, and ought by us much to be esteemed, and that is according to truth and righteousness, meekly and lovingly to converse with false and unrighteous men. 43. When thou wilt comfort and cheer thyself, call to mind the several gifts and virtues of them, whom thou dost daily converse with, as for example the industry of the one, the modesty of another, the liberality of a third, of another some other thing. For nothing can so much rejoice thee as the resemblances and parallels of several virtues, visible and eminent in the dispositions of those who live with thee, especially when, all at once, as near as may be, they represent themselves unto thee, and therefore thou must have them always in a readiness. 44. Dost thou grieve that thou dost weigh but so many pounds, and not 300 rather? Just as much reason hast thou to grieve that thou must live but so many years, and not longer. For as for bulk and substance, thou dost content thyself with that proportion of it that is allotted unto thee, so shouldst thou for time. 45. Let us do our best endeavours to persuade them, but however, if reason and justice lead thee to it, do it, though they be never so much against it. But if any shall by force withstand thee, and hinder thee in it, convert thy virtuous inclination from one object unto another, from justice to contented equanimity, and cheerful patience, so that what in the one is thy hindrance, thou mayest make use of it for the exercise of another virtue, and remember that it was with due exception and reservation that thou didst at first incline and desire. For thou didst not set thy mind upon things impossible. Upon what then? That all thy desires might ever be moderated with this due kind of reservation. And this thou hast, and mayest always obtain, whether the thing desired be in thy power or no. And what do I care for more, if that for which I was born and brought forth into the world, to rule all my desires with reason and discretion, may be? 46. The ambitious supposeth another man's act, praise and applause, to be his own happiness, the voluptuous his own sense and feeling, but he that is wise his own action. 47. It is in thy power absolutely to exclude all manner of conceit and opinion as concerning this matter, and by the same means to exclude all grief and sorrow from thy soul. For as for the things and objects themselves, they of themselves have no such power, whereby to beget and force upon us any opinion at all. 48. Use thyself when any man speaks unto thee, so to hearken unto him, as that in the interim thou give not way to any other thoughts, that so thou mayest, as far as is possible, seem fixed and fastened to his very soul, whosoever he be that speaks unto thee. 49. That which is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee. 50. Will either passengers or patients find fault and complain, either the one if they be well carried, or the others if well cured? Do they take care for any more than this, the one, that their shipmaster may bring them safe to land, and the other, that their physician may effect their recovery? 51. How many of them who came into the world at the same time when I did are already gone out of it? 52. To them that are sick of the jaundice, honey seems bitter, and to them that are bitten by a mad dog, the water terrible, and to children a little ball seems a fine thing. And why then should I be angry? Or do I think that error and false opinion is less powerful to make men transgress than either choler, being immoderate and excessive, to cause the jaundice, or poison, to cause rage? 53. No man can hinder thee to live as thy nature doth require. Nothing can happen unto thee but what the common good of nature doth require. 54. What manner of men they be whom they seek to please, and what to get, and by what actions, how soon time will cover and bury all things, and how many it hath already buried. The Seventh Book. 1. What is wickedness? It is that which many time and often thou hast already seen and known in the world. And so oft as anything doth happen that might otherwise trouble thee, let this memento presently come to thy mind, that it is that which thou hast already often seen and known. Generally, above and below, thou shalt find but the same things, the very same things whereof ancient stories, middle-aged stories, and fresh stories are full, whereof towns are full, and houses full. There is nothing that is new. All things that are both usual and of little continuance. 2. What fear is there that thy dogmata, or philosophical resolutions and conclusions, should become dead in thee, and lose their proper power and efficacy to make thee live happy, as long as those proper and correlative fancies and representations of things on which they mutually depend, which continually to stir up and revive is in thy power, are still kept fresh and alive. It is in my power concerning this thing that is happened, whatsoever it be, to conceit that which is right and true. If it be, why then am I troubled? Those things that are without my understanding are nothing to it at all, and that is it only which doth properly concern me. Be always in this mind, and thou wilt be right. 3. That which most men would think themselves most happy for, and would prefer before all things, if the gods would grant it unto them after their deaths, thou mayest, whilst thou livest, grant unto thyself, to live again. See the things of the world again, as thou hast already seen them. For what is it else to live again? Public shows and solemnities, with much pomp and vanity, stage plays, flocks and herds, conflicts and contentions, a bone thrown to a company of hungry curs, a bait for greedy fishes, the painfulness and continual burden-bearing of wretched ants, the running to and fro of terrified mice, little puppets drawn up and down with wires and nerves. These be the objects of the world. Among all these thou must stand steadfast, meekly affected, and free from all manner of indignation, with this right ratiocination and apprehension, that as the worth is of those things which a man doth affect, so is in very deed every man's worth more or less. 4. Word after word, every one by itself, must the things that are spoken be conceived and understood, and so the things that are done, purpose after purpose, every one by itself likewise. And as in matter of purposes and actions, we must presently see what is the proper use and relation of every one, so of words must we be as ready, to consider of every one what is the true meaning and signification of it according to truth and nature, however it be taken in common use. 5. Is my reason and understanding sufficient for this or no? If it be sufficient, without any private applause or public ostentation as of an instrument, which by nature I am provided of, I will make use of it for the work in hand, as of an instrument which by nature I am provided of. If it be not, and that otherwise it belong not unto me particularly as a private duty, I will either give it over and leave it to some other that can better effect it, or I will endeavour it, but with the help of some other, who, with the joint help of my reason, is able to bring somewhat to pass, that will now be seasonable and useful for the common good. For whatsoever I do either by myself or with some other, the only thing that I must intend is that it be good and expedient for the public. For as for praise, consider how many who once were much commended are now already quite forgotten. Yea, they that commended them, how even they themselves are long since dead and gone. Be not therefore ashamed, whensoever thou must use the help of others. For whatsoever it be that lieth upon thee to effect, thou must propose it unto thyself, as the scaling of walls is unto a soldier. And what if thou, through either lameness or some other impediment, art not able to reach unto the top of the battlements alone, which with the help of another thou mayest? Wilt thou therefore give it over, or go about it with less courage and alacrity, because thou canst not effect it all alone? 6. Let not things future trouble thee, for if necessity so require that they come to pass, thou shalt, whensoever that is, be provided for them with the same reason, by which whatsoever is now present is made both tolerable and acceptable unto thee. All things are linked and knitted together, and the knot is sacred. Neither is there anything in the world that is not kind and natural in regard of any other thing, or that hath not some kind of reference and natural correspondence with whatsoever is in the world besides. For all things are ranked together, and by that decency of its due place and order that each particular doth observe, they all concur together to the making of one and the same cosmos or world, as if you said a comely piece or an orderly composition. For all things throughout there is but one and the same order, and through all things one and the same God, the same substance and the same law. There is one common reason and one common truth that belongs unto all reasonable creatures, for neither is there save one perfection of all creatures that are of the same kind and partakers of the same reason. 7. Whatsoever is material doth soon vanish away into the common substance of the whole, and whatsoever is formal, or whatsoever doth animate that which is maternal, is soon resumed into the common reason of the whole, and the fame and memory of anything is soon swallowed up by the general age and duration of the whole. 8. To a reasonable creature the same action is both according to nature and according to reason. 9. Straight of itself, not made straight. 10. As several members in one body united, so are reasonable creatures in a body divided and dispersed, all made and prepared for one common operation. And this thou shalt apprehend the better, if thou shalt use thyself often to say to thyself, I am melos, or a member of the mass and body of reasonable substances. But if thou shalt say, I am meros, or a part, thou dost not yet love men from thy heart. The joy that thou takest in the exercise of bounty is not yet grounded upon a due ratiocination and right apprehension of the nature of things. Thou dost exercise it as yet upon this ground barely, as a thing convenient and fitting, not as doing good to thyself when thou dost good unto others. 11. Of things that are external, happen what will to that which can suffer by external accidents. Those things that suffer, let them complain themselves, if they will. As for me, as long as I conceive no such thing, that which is happened is evil, I have no hurt, and it is in my power not to conceive any such thing. 12. Whatsoever any man either doth or saith, thou must be good, not for any man's sake, but for thine own nature's sake, as if either gold or the emerald or purple should ever be saying to themselves, whatsoever any man either doth or saith, I must still be an emerald, and I must keep my colour. 13. This may ever be my comfort and security. My understanding, that ruleth over all, will not of itself bring trouble and vexation upon itself. This I say, it will not put itself in any fear. It will not lead itself into any concupiscence. If it be in the power of any other to compel it to fear or to grieve, it is free for him to use his power. But sure, if itself do not of itself, through some false opinion or supposition, incline itself to any such disposition, there is no fear. For as for the body, Why should I make the grief of my body to be the grief of my mind? If that itself can either fear or complain, let it. But as for the soul, which indeed can only be truly sensible of either fear or grief, to which only it belongs according to its different imaginations and opinions, to admit of either of these, or of their contraries, thou mayest look to that thyself, that it suffer nothing. Induce her not to any such opinion or persuasion. The understanding is of itself sufficient unto itself, and needs not, if itself doth not bring itself to need, any other thing besides itself. And by consequent, as it needs nothing, so neither can it be troubled or hindered by anything, if itself doth not trouble and hinder itself. 14. What is eudaimonia, or happiness, but agathos, daemon, or a good demon, or spirit? What then dost thou do here, O opinion? By the gods I adjure thee, that thou get thee gone, as thou earnest, for I need thee not. Thou earnest indeed unto me, according to thy ancient wonted manner. It is that all men have ever been subject unto. That thou camest, therefore I am not angry with thee. Only begone, now that I have found thee, what thou art. 15. Is any man so foolish as to fear change, to which all things that once were not owe their being? And what is it that is more pleasing and more familiar to the nature of the universe? How couldst thou thyself use thy ordinary hot baths, should not the wood that heateth them first be changed? How couldst thou receive any nourishment from those things that thou hast eaten, if they should not be changed? Can anything else almost that is useful and profitable be brought to pass without change? How then dost not thou perceive that for thee also by death to come to change is a thing of the very same nature, and as necessary for the nature of the universe? 16. Through the substance of the universe, as through a torrent pass all particular bodies, being all of the same nature, and all joint workers with the universe itself, as in one of our bodies so many members among themselves. How many such as Chrysippus, how many such as Socrates, how many such as Epictetus, hath the age of the world long since swallowed up and devoured? Let this, be it either men or businesses, that thou hast occasion to think of, to the end that thy thoughts be not distracted, and thy mind too earnestly set upon anything, upon every such occasion presently come to thy mind. Of all my thoughts and cares, one only thing shall be the object, that I myself do nothing which to the proper constitution of man, either in regard of the thing itself, or in regard of the manner, or of the time of doing, is contrary. The time when thou shalt have forgotten all things is at hand, and that time also is at hand when thou thyself shalt be forgotten by all. Whilst thou art, apply thyself to that especially which unto man, as he is a mart, is most proper and agreeable, and that is for a man even to love them that transgress against him. This shall be, if at the same time that any such thing doth happen, thou call to mind that they are thy kinsmen, that it is through ignorance and against their wills that they sin, and that within a very short while after, both thou and he shall be no more. But above all things, that he hath not done thee any hurt, for that by him thy mind and understanding is not made worse or more vile than it was before. 17. The nature of the universe, of the common substance of all things, as it were, of so much wax, hath now perchance formed a horse, and then, destroying that figure, hath new tempered and fashioned the matter of it into the form and substance of a tree, then that again into the form and substance of a man, and then that again into some other. Now every one of these doth subsist but for a very little while. As for dissolution, if it be no grievous thing to the chest or trunk to be joined together, why should it be more grievous to be put asunder? 18. An angry countenance is much against nature, and it is oftentimes the proper countenance of them that are at the point of death. But were it so that all anger and passion were so thoroughly quenched in thee, that it were altogether impossible to kindle it any more, yet herein must not thou rest satisfied, but further endeavour, by good consequence of true ratiocination, perfectly to conceive and understand that all anger and passion is against reason. For if thou shalt not be sensible of thine innocence, if that also shall be gone from thee, the comfort of a good conscience, that thou doest all things according to reason, what shouldest thou live any longer for? All things that now thou seest are but for a moment. That nature by which all things in the world are administered will soon bring change and alteration upon them, and then of their substances make other things like unto them, and then soon after others again of the matter and substance of these, that so by these means the world may still appear fresh and new. 19. Whensoever any man doth trespass against other, presently consider with thyself what it was that he did suppose to be good, what to be evil, when did he trespass? For this, when thou knowest, thou wilt pity him. Thou wilt have no occasion either to wonder or to be angry. For either thou thyself dost yet live in that error and ignorance, and that thou dost suppose either that very thing that he doth, or some other like worldly thing, to be good, and so thou art bound to pardon him if he have done that which thou in the like case wouldst have done thyself. Or if so be that thou dost not any more suppose the same things to be good or evil that he doth, how canst thou but be gentle unto him that is in an error? 20. Fancy not to thyself things future, as though they were present, but of those that are present take some aside, that thou takest most benefit of, and consider of them particularly how wonderfully thou wouldst want them if they were not present. But take heed withal, lest that whilst thou dost settle thy contentment in things present, thou grow in time so to overprize them, and that the want of them, whensoever it shall so fall out, should be a trouble and a vexation unto thee. Wind up thyself into thyself. Such is the nature of thy reasonable commanding part, as that if it exercise justice, and have by that means tranquillity within itself, it doth rest fully satisfied with itself without any other thing. 21. Wipe off all opinion, stay the force and violence of unreasonable lusts and affections. Circumscribe the present time, examine whatsoever it be that is happened, either to thyself or to another. Divide all present objects, either in that which is formal or material, think of the last hour. That which thy neighbour hath committed, where the guilt of it lieth, there let it rest. Examine in order whatsoever is spoken. Let thy mind penetrate both into the effects and into the causes. Rejoice thyself with true simplicity and modesty, and that all middle things between virtue and vice are indifferent unto thee. Finally, love mankind, obey God. 22. All things, saith he, are by certain order and appointment. And what if the elements only? It will suffice to remember that all things in general are by certain order and appointment, or if it be but few. And as concerning death, that either dispersion or the atoms, or annihilation, or extinction, or translation will ensue. And as concerning pain, that that which is intolerable is soon ended by death, and that which holds long must needs be tolerable, and that the mind in the meantime, which is all in all, by way of interclusion or interception, by stopping all manner of commerce and sympathy with the body, still retain its own tranquillity. Thy understanding is not made worse by it. As for those parts that suffer, let them, if they can, declare their grief themselves. As for praise and commendation, view their mind and understanding, what estate they are in, what kind of things they fly, and what things they seek after. And that as in the seaside, whatsoever was before to be seen, is by the continual succession of new heaps of sand cast up one upon another, soon hid and covered, so in this life all former things by those which immediately succeed. 23. Out of Plato, he then whose mind is endowed with true magnanimity, who hath accustomed himself to the contemplation both of all times and of all things in general, can this mortal life, thinkest thou, seem any great matter unto him? It is not possible, answered he. Then neither will such a one account death a grievous thing? By no means. 24. Out of Antisthenes. It is a princely thing to do well, and to be ill spoken of. It is a shameful thing that the face should be subject unto the mind, to be put into what shape it will, and to be dressed by it as it will, and that the mind should not bestow so much care upon herself as to fashion herself, and to dress herself as best becometh her. 25. Out of several poets and comics. It will but little avail thee to turn thine anger and indignation upon the things themselves that have fallen across unto thee. For as for them, they are not sensible of it, etc. Thou shalt but make thyself a laughing-stock, both unto the gods and men, etc. Our life is reaped like a ripe ear of corn, one is yet standing and another is down, etc. But if so be that I and my children be neglected by the gods, there is some reason even for that, etc. As long as right and equity is of my side, etc. Not to lament with them, not to tremble, etc. 26. Out of Plato. My answer, full of justice and equity, should be this: thy speech is not right, O man, if thou supposest that he that is of any worth at all should apprehend either life or death as a matter of great hazard and danger, and should not make this rather his only care, to examine his own actions, whether just or unjust, whether actions of a good or of a wicked man, etc. For thus in very truth stands the case, O ye men of Athens, what place or station soever a man either hath chosen to himself, judging it best for himself, or is by lawful authority put and settled in, therein do I think, all appearance of danger notwithstanding, that he should continue, as one who feareth neither death nor anything else, so much as he feareth to commit anything that is vicious and shameful, etc. But, O noble sir, consider, I pray, whether true generosity and true happiness do not consist in somewhat else, rather than in the preservation either of our or other men's lives. For it is not the part of a man that is a man indeed to desire to live long or to make much of his life whilst he liveth, but rather he that is such will in these things wholly refer himself unto the gods, and believing that which every woman can tell him, that no man can escape death, the only thing that he takes thought and care for is this, that what time he liveth he may live as well and as virtuously as he can possibly, etc. To look about and with the eyes to follow the course of the stars and planets, as though thou wouldst run with them, and to mind perpetually the several changes of the elements one into another. For such fancies and imaginations help much to purge away the dross and filth of this our earthly life, etc. That also is a fine passage of Plato's, where he speaketh of worldly things in these words: Thou must also, as from some higher place, look down, as it were, upon the things of this world, as flocks, armies, husbandmen's labours, marriages, divorces, generations, deaths, the tumults of courts and places of judicatures, desert places, the several nations of barbarians, public festivals, mournings, fairs, markets, how all things upon earth are pell-mell, and how miraculously things contrary one to another concur to the beauty and perfection of this universe. 27. To look back upon things of former ages, as upon the manifold changes and conversions of several monarchies and commonwealths, we may also foresee things future, for they shall all be of the same kind, neither is it possible that they should leave the tune, or break the concert that is now begun, as it were, by these things that are now done and brought to pass in the world. It comes all to one, therefore, whether a man be a spectator of the things of this life but 40 years, or whether he see them 10,000 years together. For what shall he see more? And as for those parts that came from the earth, they shall return unto the earth again, and those that came from heaven, they also shall return unto those heavenly places. Whether it be a mere dissolution and unbinding of the manifold intricacies and entanglements of the confused atoms, or some such dispersion of the simple and incorruptible elements, with meats and drinks and divers charms, they seek to divert the channel, that they might not die. Yet must we needs endure that blast of wind that cometh from above, though we toil and labour never so much. 28. He hath a stronger body, and is a better wrestler than I. What then? Is he more bountiful? Is he more modest? Doth he bear all adverse chances with more equanimity, or with his neighbour's offences with more meekness and gentleness than I? 29. Where the matter may be effected agreeably to that reason, which both unto the gods and men is common, there can be no just cause of grief or sorrow. For where the fruit and benefit of an action well begun and prosecuted according to the proper constitution of man may be reaped and obtained, or is sure and certain, it is against reason that any damage should there be suspected. In all places and at all times, it is in thy power religiously to embrace whatsoever by God's appointment is happened unto thee, and justly to converse with those men whom thou hast to do with, and accurately to examine every fancy that presents itself, that nothing may slip and steal in, before thou hast rightly apprehended the true nature of it. 30. Look not about upon other men's minds and understandings, but look right on forwards with a nature both that of the universe in those things that happen unto thee, and thine in particular, in those things that are done by thee, doth lead and direct thee. Now every one is bound to do that, which is consequent and agreeable to that end which by his true natural constitution he was ordained unto. As for all other things, they are ordained for the use of reasonable creatures, as in all things we see that that which is worse and inferior is made for that which is better. Reasonable creatures they are ordained one for another, that therefore which is chief in every man's constitution is that he intend the common good. The second is that he yield not to any lusts and motions of the flesh, for it is the part and privilege of the reasonable and intellective faculty that she can so bound herself as that neither the sensitive nor the appetitive faculties may not anyways prevail upon her. For both these are brutish, and therefore over both she challengeth mastery, and cannot anyways endure, if in her right temper, to be subject unto either. And this indeed most justly, for by nature she was ordained to command all in the body. The third thing, proper to man by his constitution, is to avoid all rashness and precipitancy, and not to be subject to error. To these things then let the mind apply herself and go straight on, without any distraction about other things, and she hath her end, and by consequent her happiness. 31. As one who had lived, and were now to die by right, whatsoever is yet remaining, bestow that wholly as a gracious overplus upon a virtuous life. Love and affect that only, whatsoever it be that happeneth, and is by the fates appointed unto thee. For what can be more reasonable, and as anything doth happen unto thee by way of cross or calamity, call to mind presently and set before thine eyes the examples of some other men, to whom the self-same thing did once happen likewise. Well, what did they? They grieved, they wondered, they complained, and where are they now? All dead and gone, wilt thou also be like one of them? Or rather leaving to men of the world, whose life both in regard of themselves and them that they converse with is nothing but mere mutability, or men of as fickle minds as fickle bodies, ever changing and soon change themselves, let it be thine only care and study how to make a right use of all such accidents. For there is good use to be made of them, and they will prove fit matter for thee to work upon, if it shall be both thy care and thy desire, that whatsoever thou doest, thou thyself mayest like and approve thyself for it. And both these see that thou remember well, according as the diversity of the matter of the action that thou art about shall require. Look within. Within is the fountain of all good, such a fountain where springing waters can never fail, so thou dig still deeper and deeper. 32. Thou must use thyself also to keep thy body fixed and steady, free from all loose fluctuant, either motion or posture. And as upon thy face and looks thy mind hath easily power over them to keep them to that which is grave and decent, so let it challenge the same power over the whole body also. But so observe all things in this kind, as that it be without any manner of affectation. 33. The art of true living in this world is more like a wrestler's than a dancer's practice, for in this they both agree to teach a man whatsoever falls upon him, that he may be ready for it, and that nothing may cast him down. 34. Thou must continually ponder and consider with thyself what manner of men they be, and for their minds and understandings what is their present estate, whose good word and testimony thou dost desire. For then neither wilt thou see cause to complain of them that offend against their wills, or find any want of their applause, if once thou dost but penetrate into the true force and ground, both of their opinions and of their desires. No soul, saith he, is willingly bereft of the truth, and by consequent neither of justice or temperance or kindness and mildness, nor of anything that is of the same kind. It is most needful that thou shouldst always remember this, for so shalt thou be far more gentle and moderate towards all men. 35. What pain soever thou art in, let this presently come to thy mind, that it is not a thing whereof thou needest to be ashamed, neither is it a thing whereby thy understanding, that hath the government of all, can be made worse. For neither in regard of the substance of it, nor in regard of the end of it, which is to intend the common good, can it alter and corrupt it. This also of Epicurus mayest thou in most pains find some help of, that it is neither intolerable nor eternal. So thou keep thyself to the true bounds and limits of reason, and give not way to opinion. This also thou must consider, that many things there be which oftentimes unsensibly trouble and vex thee, as not armed against them with patience, because they go not ordinarily under the name of pains, which in very deed are of the same nature as pain, as to slumber unquietly, to suffer heat, to want appetite. When therefore any of these things make thee discontented, check thyself with these words: Now hath pain given thee the foil, thy courage hath failed thee. 36. Take heed, lest at any time thou stand so affected, though towards unnatural evil men, as ordinary men are commonly one towards another. 37. How know we whether Socrates were so eminent indeed, and of so extraordinary a disposition? For that he died more gloriously, that he disputed with the sophists more subtly, that he watched in the frost more assiduously, that being commanded to fetch innocent Salaminius, he refused to do it more generously, all this will not serve. Nor that he walked in the streets with much gravity and majesty, as was objected unto him by his adversaries, which nevertheless a man may well doubt of, whether it were so or no, or, which above all the rest, if so be that it were true, a man would well consider of, whether commendable or discommendable. The thing, therefore, that we must inquire into is this: what manner of soul Socrates had, whether his disposition was such as that all that he stood upon and sought after in this world was barely this, that he might ever carry himself justly towards men and holily towards the gods, neither vexing himself to no purpose at the wickedness of others, nor yet ever condescending to any man's evil fact or evil intentions through either fear or engagement or friendship. Whether of those things that happened unto him by God's appointment, he neither did wonder at any when it did happen, or thought it intolerable in the trial of it. And lastly, whether he never did suffer his mind to sympathize with the senses and affections of the body. For we must not think that nature hath so mixed and tempered it with the body, as that she hath not power to circumscribe herself, and by herself to intend her own ends and occasions. 38. For it is a thing very possible that a man should be a very divine man, and yet be altogether unknown. This thou must ever be mindful of, as of this also, that a man's true happiness doth consist in very few things, and that although thou dost despair that thou shalt ever be a good either logician or naturalist, yet thou art never the further off by it from being either liberal, or modest, or charitable, or obedient unto God. 39. Free from all compulsion, in all cheerfulness and alacrity, thou mayest run out thy time, though men should exclaim against thee never so much, and the wild beast should pull in sunder the poor members of thy pampered mass of flesh. For what in either of these or the like cases should hinder the mind to retain her own rest and tranquillity, consisting both in the right judgment of those things that happen unto her, and in the ready use of all present matters and occasions, so that her judgment may say to that which is befallen her by way of cross, this thou art in very deed, and according to thy true nature, notwithstanding that in the judgment of opinion thou dost appear otherwise, and her discretion to the present object, thou art that which I sought for. For whatsoever it be that is now present shall ever be embraced by me as a fit and seasonable object, both for my reasonable faculty and for my sociable or charitable inclination to work upon. And that which is principal in this matter is that it may be referred either unto the praise of God or to the good of men. For either unto God or man whatsoever it is that doth happen in the world hath in the ordinary course of nature its proper reference, neither is there anything that in regard of nature is either new or reluctant and intractable, but all things both usual and easy. 40. Then hath a man attained to the estate of perfection in his life and conversation, when he so spends every day as if it were his last day, never hot and vehement in his affections, nor yet so cold and stupid as one that had no sense, and free from all manner of dissimulation. 41. Can the gods who are immortal, for the continuance of so many ages, bear without indignation with such and so many sinners as have ever been? Yea, not only so, but also take such care for them, that they want nothing. And dost thou so grievously take on as one that could bear with them no longer, thou that art but for a moment of time? Yea, thou that art one of those sinners thyself. A very ridiculous thing it is that any man should dispense